So I'm actually what we know in our industry as supplementary cementitious materials, SCMs. So if I say SCMs throughout, that are supplementary cementitious materials. And the ones we are most familiar with probably in the UK are GGBS, Ground Granulated Blast-furnace Slag, fly ash and limestone. Typically, as you can see from those two here, they tend to be byproducts from other industries, which is a big advantage. They enhance concrete performance, in particular the durability of concrete, like sulfate and chloride attack. And of course, why people are more and more interested in them now, not only for the technical reasons, but they also tend to have lower embodied carbon than normal Portland cement or Portland limestone cement. That's why they get people are more and more interested in it. Why? These are the ones we're more familiar with, but why are we looking at new? What is changing? These two clips here are both from the same day last year. I will never forget it, 30th of September last year, when Tata Steel closed its second blast furnace in Port Talbot, which is the source of granulate for GGBS, and the last coal-fired power station in the UK was also closed, which was the source of fresh fly ash. So we have no fresh fly ash left in the UK anymore. So while we at the moment still produce and have a lot of GGBS available also for the next 10 years, we do need to look into the future as well. What will we do when we have less of those, and what materials can potentially replace them? What are the options? On this chart, I talk about what I think are the most likely and the big options for us. If you look at the picture, starting with calcine clay here, this is an aerial view of Cornwall, where the white quarries are those of kaolinitic clays, very high value clays. We probably won't use them in our industry, but as you can see from the many brick houses in the UK, we are full of clays. And in our industry, we can use those clays. If we calcine them, they become reactive and they can play a similar role to fly ash or GGBS. Another big option are natural pozzolans, which this picture here refers to. It's a deposit in Iceland, which is actually linked to our company, Heidelberg Materials. Already use pozzolans now. We are grinding them in Sweden, and again they have pozzolanic effects just like fly ash, and therefore can also be used together with cement to be used in concrete. Another one which is on the horizon are beneficiated fly ashes. When I mentioned before fly ashes, so far we have always used fresh fly ashes. When we still had coal-fired power stations, we collected the fly ash and used it directly. But before it became attractive to our industry, a lot of fly ash was actually deposited in ponds or ponded in the UK all over the world. So we have millions of tons of deposited ashes in the UK and in the rest of the world. And what you see here is one of our plants of Heidelberg Materials plant, a star plant in America, and that's what they exactly do. They treat the fly ash there, which was previously deposited, so that it can be used as a supplementary cementitious materials for use with cement in concretes. These are what I believe probably going to be the three big runners, the front runners when it comes to supplementary cementitious materials in the future, and we are involved with all of them. Who else might be the winners? What are the other options? Recycled concrete fines, this is what this picture refers to here, so this also addresses circularity. I'm going to talk about this afternoon at 3 o'clock, so if you're interested, we have patented the methodology of gaining recycled concrete fines, and also how to actually treat them with CO2. They become reactive again and can be used as a supplementary cementitious material, a true example of circularity. While we have less blast furnace slags in future, because the blast furnaces tend to be closing because of the CO2 implications, they're more and more being replaced by electric arc furnaces, which have already existed in the steel industry in any case, but like the case in Port Talbot, they are going to put a very large electric arc furnace in. So they will in future more electric arc furnace slugs available. They will be never as easy for our industry as the slugs from the blast furnaces, but if treated correctly, if quenched on tapping, if we remove the iron, they can also be used as secondary supplementary cementitious materials possibly in the future. Another option is, I mentioned clays before in the UK, while we primarily look at calcining them at about 800 degrees, so we need to heat them about 800 degrees for them to become reactive. There's another way of reactivating them. It's by mechanically activating them, by grinding them at very high energy. That is at the moment being developed in Germany, a first pilot plant, not by ourselves, but it's being installed. We are working with universities in the UK as well, and given the amount of clays we have in the UK, it's probably another way of producing supplementary cementitious materials in future. And then there are lots of startup technologies. We're constantly monitoring them. I've just put a couple of examples on here. For example, Terra CO2. They are looking at the fines of mine tailings, activating them through plasma treatment, which then makes them glassy, makes them similar to fly ash, and it becomes reactive again. That's just one of many technologies, and some of them will be successful, others won't. I think that's where the question is still open for the future, but we're constantly monitoring those as well. This is already my last slide. I hope I've been able to give you an overview of why current SCMs which we currently use will eventually become less available. At the moment we still have lots of GGBS, but we do need to look into the future. I believe the front runners for our SCMs of the future are calcined clays, natural pozzolans, and possibly also beneficiated ashes. Certainly in America and Canada, beneficiated ashes are already being used now. And then there are other emerging technologies where again some are probably more likely to be adopted or where we know more about, like the recycled concrete fines, the electric arc furnace slugs, and then all these other new technologies often developed at universities being moved out into startup companies. Watch the space, what's going to happen there. Has anybody got any questions here now? I know that this is quite daunting, but we have a microphone, so if somebody wants to ask anything now, I'm happy to address this.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm George from the Health and Safety Executive.
Hi, Josh.
Building safety regulator is about to go review of approved documents and records. What, if anything, needs to change in these versions to account for the alternative SCMs?
We primarily work from the cement standard first. It's a European standard which is still, despite Brexit, we also use in the UK. We use the same standards. And the cement standard is already being updated for some of the new materials. For example, the concrete fines I referred to, there is a new addition to the cement standard now, which allows us to use concrete fines in the cement standard. In the UK then, the next step is usually we have to make sure that that also gets built into the concrete standard in the UK, which is a local standard, which is BS 8500 in the UK. And normally what happens is we carry out large programs of durability testing to demonstrate that these new materials exhibit resistance to chloride ingression or sulfate attack. And if we can demonstrate this, that their performance, they then get built into BS 8500, so that it's then allowed to also use them in structural concrete in the UK. That is the mechanism in the UK for those materials to be accepted for structural applications. And that's what we're constantly involved with as well, yes.